Hey guys, it's Jake again. So my last video was pretty big for me. It was incredibly hard to make. It was a lot of research. It was emotionally just very difficult for me to make. Just the story of Alex Smith it honestly just breaks my heart. It was really hard to talk about that without getting super emotional. It's also a bit of a controversial subject. You know, we can all agree that the price is too high, but we all have different views on why it is so high and the actions that we can take to get it down. But overall, I was just really happy with it. It was my most viewed and liked video, and also nearly doubled my subscribers, so watch out, Diabetic Danica. I'm coming for you and your 30,000 subscribers. Alright, that was a joke, guys. Like, seriously. But I really don't make these videos for recognition. I don't make it to get likes and subscribers. But that being said, if you guys do like these videos and subscribe to my channel, it really does help get them pushed out to other people. And that would mean a lot to me. So if you guys don't mind, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. That would be fantastic. But really the reason why I was so happy with that video is because it led to a lot of discussion. Now I know the video itself on the YouTube platform had 0 comments on it, but when I posted it to a Facebook group, it had 114 comments on it, and that's just incredible. Just people giving their viewpoints on it, and just lots of discussion in the comments. It also led to some great conversation that I had with my family at the dinner table because some of my family had seen that video. And the comments that my family had were very similar to some of these Facebook comments. So really, there's 3 big comments that I really wanted to address, and also I've given this some further thought, and I think I may have like kind of a medium ground. I had like the super low approach of just having more transparency, and also the super like aggressive approach. And I do understand how aggressive that approach is and why some people have some hesitancies about it. So I've kind of come up with a middle ground. Stick around for that. It'll be towards the end of the video. And my reasoning behind going over these comments is because, you know, if these guys had these thoughts, then chances are somebody else who's watching this is having the same thoughts as well. And I just want to give my thoughts on that and just further the discussion. So first things first, if you guys are watching this video and you haven't seen the first part, make sure that you watch the first part. If you don't, you'll probably be a little lost in this video. So just pause this video, and I'm going to put a link here, maybe here, somewhere. I'll put it somewhere, wherever I can fit it in. But yeah, pause this video and just go watch that so you can follow along. So the first one was kind of broken down into 6 parts. He was like 6 like kind of inaccuracies that he found in my video, or 6 disagreements. So I just wanted to address all 6 of those. So the first one was he said I was inaccurate in how long it would take for diabetic ketoacidosis to kill you. And he was right. I kind of just Googled it, saw 24 hours, and just rolled with it without really reading with it. It was late when I was filming, so I am so sorry for that inaccuracy. The real answer is it'll take DKA between 3 and 10 days to kill you. And I did upload a comment on that video kind of clarifying that. So again, sorry for any inaccuracies with that. So number 2 was insurance deductibles. He pointed out that, you know, most private insurances have a deductible far less than $7,000, and that is absolutely true. And I didn't mean for it to seem commonplace that $7,000 was like a normal deductible. It's not, but it's possible, and I just want to point out that it's certainly feasible that someone could end up in that situation, as Alex Smith did. And then number 3, he said that all the pharma companies, all the insulin manufacturers are publicly traded companies. So if we want to know how much they're giving in rebates and kickbacks, then we just need to look at their financial statements. And this, I don't know where he got this idea from. Just as a background for you guys, I have a bachelor's degree in business finance, and I've had tons of experience reading financial reports, you know, when it comes time for earnings calls and stuff like that. And I dug and dug and dug, and there it's just listed nowhere. Number 4 is that he said buying insulin in Canada wouldn't negatively affect the U.S. economy. I'm not saying that's going to have like a huge difference, but it will have some. You know, it's going to give U.S. money to Canadian pharmacies, and it just, well, it won't be significant. You know, it's just unnecessary when you factor in the cost of shipping it in a big refrigerated truck all the way to Canada, and then shipping it back in temperature control packaging to the US. I guarantee that the purchase price that the US people are paying are double what Eli Lilly's receiving for that insulin. And again, it's not going to create like $1 trillion trade deficit. It just seems unnecessary. So why do it? Number 5, he hugely disagreed with me saying that the government should control insulin. And I just want to say I never advocated for that. I just said that they should put a price cap on how much people pay for insulin. I 100% understand the hesitancy people have in the government getting involved in this. And I'll address that further in the video. So just stay tuned for that. And then number 6, he had a problem with my free, cheapest insulin. And I just wanted to clarify this. Maybe he thought that I was talking about human insulin. Every time that I mentioned insulin in that video, especially here, I was talking about analog insulin. And that's why I was using Humalog and Novolog and Sanofi insulin as the examples. For the record, I am not advocating that anyone take human insulin. We'll talk more on that in just a little bit, but he mentioned that Alex Smith was taking human insulin and that's why he died. That's just not true. I've read dozens and dozens of articles about Alex Smith. Nowhere did it ever mention that he was taking any form of insulin, human, analog, any kind. And then this is a great segue into the next comment. And this guy, he says that less expensive insulins are available over the counter in some states. And that is absolutely true. They're older insulins. They're called human insulins. They're like Novolin R and Novolin H. And now I've never used any of these insulins, so I'm just basing this just off of other people's experiences, and these insulins just aren't very effective. And in all fairness to this guy, he does list out all the negatives associated with it. These negatives include, wild swings in blood sugar. They're a lot less controlled than on analog insulin. Also, it's led to people being hypo unaware and just other negative effects. And I think that this is what the first guy thought that I was suggesting everybody use when he made his 6th point. I absolutely am not. The way I see it is I'm using the best medication right now, and I got decent control over my blood sugar, but it's not great. And if I don't have great blood sugar control with the best insulin, how's it going to be when I'm not using the best insulin, if I'm just using okay insulin? So kind of the way that I look at this, and maybe this isn't the best analogy, but this is just the way I envision it. So imagine that you haven't eaten any food all day and you are just starving. I view the analog insulin as like a full, well-balanced meal. It's got fruits, it's got vegetables, it's got grains. And I kind of view human insulin as like a bag of chips. It is absolutely better than nothing, and it'll keep you alive, but it's far from the best for your body, and it's far from the best at addressing what you need. But it is just $25 a vial, and that's over the counter. You don't need a prescription for it. So if you're ever in like a huge pinch, it's absolutely better than nothing. And then the last comment that really stood out to me, this guy says, what if government is the problem? What if FDA regulation and patent law had less influence on who manufactures insulin in the US? Since insulin is so profitable, why don't more companies enter the market? Consumer choice is the best way to moderate prices. And I gotta say, like, every conversation that I had with my family about this was basically them just echoing this. And I gotta say, for the most part, I'm a pretty conservative guy. When it comes to people being healthy and taken care of, I obviously am a little bit less conservative, but I'm a huge believer in the free market system. And I really gotta say that, like, this is the part of the buy insulin from Canada that I really agree with, because it gives consumers more options, and giving them more options will just help lower price. If a good majority of people start buying insulin from Canada at $40 a vial, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk in the US are going to have to start matching those prices to stay competitive and to stop people from doing that. So having this conversation with my brother, we agreed that really the only time that a government should step in is when there's a monopoly, because monopolies are just not good for anybody except for the company that has a monopoly. So here's the thing. Right now the insulin market is an oligopoly, which basically means that there's a few big companies that control the entire market. Those companies, of course, are Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, and Sanofi. But here's the thing, is that the insulin market in the United States is acting like a monopoly. The advantages of not having a monopoly is that the companies compete on price and it spurs innovation. Neither of those things are happening. Prices are just skyrocketing, and innovation has been more or less non-existent. Novolog today is nearly identical to Novolog 17 years ago when it came on the market. And so I gave a lot of thought as to why it was, and then it finally hit me why things are the way they are when I was shopping for health insurance. You know, it's November 1st now, and so now it's open enrollment. And I just noticed the craziest thing of all the available options I had for health insurance, every single one of them covered Novolog. Not a single one covered Humalog or Lantus. So of all the people who have insurance, and I feel like most type 1 diabetics have insurance, they really have one choice when it comes to insulin. And when you have one choice, that's a monopoly. Now, in all fairness, if you really did prefer Humalog, and there was a very good reason why you needed Humalog, like say your numbers were just so much better when you're on Humalog, your doctor could write you a note and you could petition the insurance to cover Humalog, but most people don't do that. They just take the insulin that's available to them without even thinking twice about other options. Also, since Humalog wouldn't be a preferred brand, the insurance is also less likely to cover a good portion of it. You know, your copays are probably higher on that, and it's just financially not worth it, and it's not worth the headache to go through that whole process of getting yourself approved for that. So these companies aren't competing on price. They're competing against each other to get on these formularies, and the way that they do that is through these rebates, which they just pass on to their customer. So that's the crazy part, is most people that take Novolog, it's not even necessarily their preferred brand. They're just taking it because that's what their insurance covers. Novolog, which has the highest percentage market share in the United States, also has the highest list price. I don't think that's coincidence. I think that they've had to raise their list price to compensate for getting on these formularies, which in turn gives them this market share in the United States. And again, in the first video I made about this whole insulin price crisis, I proposed a plan, and a big part of my plan was to get all the insurances to cover all the brands of insulin as tier 1 drugs. And the second part was to make it so that the cheapest brand of insulin, again, analog insulin, was going to be a $0 patient responsibility. Now, notice that I don't use the word free, because I know that money is going to come from somewhere. But the whole point of that was to try to just encourage these insulin manufacturers to want to make their insulin the cheapest. So because of all these awesome discussions that I've been able to have with friends, family, and people on Facebook, and I've just given it a lot of thought since I posted my last video, you don't need to make insulin $0 patient responsibility to get these insulin manufacturers to compete on price. You merely just need to give people choice. So let me give you an example. Say through my insurance that I have a 20% copay on tier 1 drugs. Say Humalog is listed the list price of $980 and Novolog is $1,070. That means that it's about $180 for me to get Humalog and about $203.50 to get Novolog. I'm going to get Humalog every time. The difference isn't that much if I really prefer Novolog, but I mean, again, to most people, insulin is insulin. There's not really a difference, and most people will just go towards what's most affordable. Another big thing that this will do is it will open up the market for generics, and hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more generic insulin come into the market. We got some pretty big patents expiring soon, so I think that's going to open up the market. And granted, I don't know how insurances in their present form are going to cover generic insulin, because generic insulin isn't technically considered a generic drug. It's considered a biosimilar. And with biosimilars being so rare on the market, it's really hard to predict how insurance companies are going to cover those drugs. So again, this is just my best guess, but this is how I see it playing out, is that insurances just aren't going to cover these generic insulins. And that's because they've just got such a good kickback on rebates and stuff that it just doesn't make sense for them to do it. It makes sense for them to keep covering Novolog because they get such a kickback on it. So the only way that these generic insulins can get covered under these insurance plans is if they start giving a bunch of rebates and kickbacks as well, which is really just going to add on to the price and kind of just defeat the purpose of generics. So say hypothetically a generic insulin comes on the market and it costs $60 a vial. And that is just, that's like a fifth of the price of what insulin currently is. That will really only help out cash customers, because most people with insurance are paying less than that with the current system. So like me, for example, I was paying, before I got on a discount card, I was paying $130 a month for 3 vials. And this generic, which is at such a lower price, if my insurance doesn't cover it, it's still going to be $180, which is more than what I'm paying now. So what's the benefit? Now, if my insurance covered that generic insulin as a tier 1 drug, my monthly out-of-pocket cost would be $27 a month for that. And that's just such a huge savings. As I guess that's kind of my in-the-middle plan, is just to require all insurances to cover all the major analog insulins, including biosimilars. I think that this will just cause a race to the bottom. It will allow these companies to compete on price. And they'll actually be able to now that they don't have so much money going into rebates and kickbacks. So yeah, guys, that's kind of just my revised thoughts. Thanks so much for everyone that's been talking with me about this. And, you know, I've just really enjoyed this discussion, and it's led to a lot of deeper thought. And I look forward to continuing to have these deep discussions with you guys. So, you know, if you have a comment on this, if you have an idea, please leave it down in the comments. I'd love to discuss it with you. And yeah, guys, thanks again so much for watching. And please remember to like and subscribe. Thanks, guys. Till next time.